Welcome to another episode of No Cap Sports, and this is the perfect time for NFL fans around the globe. You can have pointless optimism because everybody's team is 0-0, and free agency, everybody's team on paper ain't no games been played yet, so you can't be judged. You see, I got the Patriots gear on today. TJ might be a little ashamed. I don't see no Saints gear around, but
Yeah, we they out there playing with little boys. I can't be wearing that shit on camera.
but free agency is here. The offseason has kicked off. And talking about your Saints, man, we got to start this conversation by talking about biggest winners and losers. And you talked about the Saints and, the whole little thing they got going on. One man was lucky enough to get out of there, and that's Dennis Allen. And I think he's going to a team that we can both agree is a big winner this offseason, talking about the Bears. How do you feel about Dennis Allen leaving, going to the Bears, and just what do you think about this Bears offseason as a whole?
I like that move a lot just because I think he got the stain of like being a head coach on his name. Like we're so associated with him being a terrible head coach that when Sean Payton was still the coach, he was a phenomenal defensive coordinator. The issue with him has just been he's been so bad as the Raiders head coach. Comes around to New Orleans, defensive coordinator sticks around. They give him the job. That was kind of like maybe like a here take it. Maybe he didn't want it. The Saints are such a family friendly organization. They're like, we want an in house guy. A couple of teams around the league are like that, but I think it was to their detriment. But he's a phenomenal defensive coordinator. And the fact that he no longer could call defense in that area is what got him fired.
Facts.
So if we feel like we have a bad team, right? If we have a guy who's, some coaches don't pick a side of the ball, Dennis Allen was on defense. So if you can't call defense, we're like, all right, why are we keeping you? So I think allowing him to reset, I think he's probably one of I'd say the top 3 or 4 defensive minds, just because he was able to make so much happen with all the guys that we had injured coming in and out. We had rookies, we had young guys. He's a phenomenal defensive mind. I think he just needs a fresh start. I like what the Bears are doing X and O wise on both sides of the ball. You have a head coach who is an X and O guy, offensive coordinator. You have a defensive coordinator. For the first time, they have a little bit of culture with the the Lions streak coming with them.
Yeah.
In years past, it's like we don't have culture and we don't have X and O's. Now you're kind of seeing both. You got a quarterback who's capable, so built up the O line. We'll get into that, but I like what the Bears are doing.
No, facts, bro. And talking about Dennis Allen some more and what he's going to in Chicago, bro. The cabinet is full, in my eyes, on that defense, bro. Grady Jarrett gets cut, not even 24 hours later. Bears pick him up, a good guy to plug the middle of that defense. You think about all the big run stoppers Dennis Allen has employed with the Saints. I think that was a good pickup for them. And you're adding that to a defense that has been good under Matt Eberflus in the past years. I want to say 2, 3 years ago, they were top 10 in the league
Yep.
in defense. So this is already a good unit. Dennis Allen's walking to a good situation. But now you bring in Ben Johnson as the head man. And like you said, adding size to that interior on the O line, at trade. I don't know if they traded for or acquired Jonah Jackson, trading for Joe Tooney, and also bringing in center Drew Dahlman. Like they are truly investing in that O line and trying to see Caleb Williams be successful after obviously last year was kind of a shit show for him. But the Bears aren't the only team, who are big winners so far. I would say another one, and you kind of hinted at this before we got on, is their division rival, the Minnesota Vikings. With JJ McCarthy, looking at some of the moves they've made, what have you made of the Vikings offseason so far?
I think it seems like to me they're moving with confidence. You talked about they went and got Fries and Kelly. This is a team that whatever coach they have, they seem to find a way to just stumble and win 10, 11 games. They have off years, but this is a team and not too far removed. Well, they just went to the playoffs this year. 2 years before that, went to the playoffs. So I like that they had a really great defense. Brian Flores is a really he was an underrated defensive coordinator, but now you're starting to see
Facts. He got that stain though.
it's crazy because when you look at the Vikings defense, you don't see the names. You're like kind of watching like who are some of these guys, but like
Yeah,
Van Ginkel was turned up, buying them. These guys dancing in the end zone, having a party. They still got Byron Murphy. He found a way to kind of demonstrate that defense is the side of the ball where if your guy knows what he's doing, he can put his chess pieces in order. We talked about this before. They're really going to push their chips on the table with McCarthy. Yeah, he's not on paper as a rookie, but he hasn't played it down in NFL football. If you haven't
yeah,
played, to me, you're a rookie. So you have the best receiver in football, one of the best number twos in Addison. I think you still have Hawkinson. They're gonna run the ball with Jones. Line is reshored.
Yeah, that was definitely a good re-sign of them bringing back Jones.
So I think if he can stay healthy, he has a very safe, I would say, environment. KOC, a phenomenal head coach. The culture there, like I said, they just won 14 games with Sam Darnold. Yeah, it kind of imploded at the end, but if you replace quarterbacks, that kind of almost has nothing to do with him because like he wasn't driving the ship. We haven't seen him in college get to really, drive the boat. So now they're going to be like, okay, well, it's your turn. Keep him healthy. He can run a little bit. He'll take care of the football. I'm excited to see. This is basically his rookie year. So new quarterback, O line, defense, division will be a little bit more shaken up. Like maybe Detroit will kind of be a little bit of shell shock because they got hit hard in the playoffs.
Yeah, facts. Lost both of their coaches too.
The Bears are going to come get a few, maybe. Green Bay, as always, you all got to watch out for Green Bay
Nah, facts.
because they're never going to look like it on paper, but they're going to win 10 games. And we're going to be like, oh, they're going to do this in the playoffs, and then they'll go home first, second round. So I'm excited for them. I'm intrigued more than anything.
Yeah, and I share that intrigue with you because at the at the midpoint of the season, if you told me Sam Darnold wouldn't be back in Minnesota, I'd be surprised. Do you think like the way the season ended for the Vikings kind of had an impact on their decision with Sam Darnold? Because I was in the thought that they would bring him back, let him keep rocking out, kind of like he's built this chemistry. You saw it the way he was in the locker room with those guys, and then you think about it, they just re-signed Jay Jettas long term
Right.
last off season, and he just snapped with Sam Darnold. So I was thinking maybe not necessarily a long term solution but a longer term solution than 1 year. So,
Mhm.
just where do you see that McCarthy upside? Do you think he can improve on the level of quarterback play that Minnesota saw from Sam Darnold last year, or do you think there's a significant level of risk with putting all their chips in the JJ McCarthy basket?
I think, and maybe this will sound a little messed up, a little blunt, but I feel like they saw it as well. If Sam Darnold can do it, we could find a guy to do it. Why are we going to give him a guy who's on chance? What number five? Chance
No,
number
yeah,
4 or 5. So it's not to discredit what he did, but they're looking at it like one, he had a huge meltdown towards the end of the stretch when it matters most. So if I'm a team that I know I can win 12 games with Case Keenum, Kirk Cousins, and Sam Darnold,
I
right? Those
forgot
are
about
three.
Case Keenum.
Those are three crazy names. Case Keenum went to the NFC Championship game. Those
No,
are three
facts.
crazy
Minneapolis
names.
Miracle, bro.
All won playoff games, all 10 plus wins. So we're looking at it like this is not a team that is built on the quarterback, and they really embrace that this year. This is a team that they have plugged in three very similar guys. They look the same. They throw the same.
Hey,
They
fact.
they built the same. They take one good lick and then so I think they thought of not to discredit him. He played well, but it was like, okay, well, we have this. It's a precedent. We are on record as we can win with anybody. So why would I pay a guy who is not a proven commodity just because he had one good season? We've seen quarterbacks do that before,
Yeah.
and it's harder to gauge with a guy in year what is he in year 8, year 7, something like that.
I mean, yeah, but well, he's 27, but at the same time,
Right.
he's still
Okay.
younger than a lot of guys
Right. So it
in their
just
NFL careers.
it's not like a guy can't break out in the later years. It's just sometimes you have to be cautious. And I wouldn't put my entire future behind a guy who just now broke out. And like you told me before, like he hasn't really been in the best situation. And we're gonna see that again in Seattle. Now it's kind of
Yeah.
like back to the Stone Age for him because now you don't really have no toys to play with. So they will be able to see if they made the right decision. But you drafted JJ McCarthy top 10 pick. I don't really think you anticipated Darnold being so good to where you didn't want to let him go. I don't know if that
Nah,
makes
fact.
sense. Like
Nah, I
he was
see what
supposed to
you're
be a
saying.
bridge guy. He wasn't supposed to be like, oh no, we don't want to let him go. It's supposed to be like, thank you for your service. Now it's time for the other
Oh
quarterback.
God,
So
he wasn't
I
supposed to turn
think
into $100 million man. Is
right,
what you're
right.
saying?
And they weren't about to let that happen. They were like, damn, we turn him into $100 million man. We're not gonna pay that price. Why would we have a top 10 quarterback pick and $100 million quarterback who is one pass rush away from turning back into a pumpkin when he's seen them hitters coming at him in Detroit?
Seeing
He
them
was giving it
ghosts.
up. So it's not like he can't do it, but it's not a proven enough commodity for $100 million. That's
Nah,
just me.
facts. And so the fact that you say it's not a proven enough commodity makes me think of another interesting point, another interesting storyline from this offseason. And that's the fact that Aaron Rodgers is still a free agent. We think about Brett Favre, he went Packers, Jets, Vikings. Is that same trajectory in the cards for Aaron Rodgers? Like, do the Vikings not have enough faith in JJ McCarthy to the point that they go get Aaron Rodgers, or do they have so much faith in JJ McCarthy to the point that they go get a Jonathan Allen. They invest in that defense because, like you said, that's a team not sitting around the quarterback, and JJ McCarthy can be that guy regardless to get them where they want to be.
Mm. I think I look at a situation like you talk about Aaron Rodgers. I think in this instance, you have to give that young kid confidence. We've seen what happens when, for instance, when they drafted Jordan Love, that just soured Green Bay. They were
Hmm.
never the same after that. Even if, like, Aaron Rodgers' job was never in imminent danger, but you know how he is, you know how he gets. Like, that just was never the same. So I think if you go get a quarterback for JJ McCarthy, I think now it just like you have to let him know either way. So like let him know, all right, we're gonna go in and get a quarterback. We still want you to compete, but don't be halfway with it. Like we don't know what we want to do because that's who you have right now. That's
Yeah,
what you have. He's got to go into OTAs and spring activity in the camp. Either he's knowing he's competing for the job or it's his. It can't be like I wonder what they're gonna do. Are they gonna stab me in the back? They just
yeah,
told me. They pulled me in the office. Like okay, yeah, it's all yours. Oh, I got to look over my shoulder. Oh, damn, we just went and got this guy. We just went and got, what's to stop them from going sign Ryan Tannehill or some, underhanded thing like that? They got to let him know. You got to commit either way. Either we're going to have a quarterback battle, show me that it's yours, or here it's for you. Because,
yeah.
again, he has the weapons. It's not like he's going to drive the bus in terms of, oh, who is he going to throw to? He's playing with scrubs. They have one of the best offenses and one of the best offensive personnel in the league, the best
But
receiver, if not one of the best duos. He's got tools. He just has to be given the key.
no, I think you make a very good point, Brad. If I was, if the NFL had a stock market, I would definitely be buying JJ McCarthy stock right now because it's going to the moon. We're talking about, JJ McCarthy and his potential rise. A guy who we really saw have a meteoric rise last season, especially having some questions coming into the draft and after his many, many years in college was Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. So they've been very active this offseason as well, making some big splashes like Evan Ingram and other names like that. So I know you had them as one of your winners. Let the people know about what you saw in the Broncos offseason. Maybe you're reminiscent of the old Sean Payton days in Mercedes Benz, man.
To your point about Evan Ingram, I had that as one of my like under the radars because the Jaguars are like, all right, bro, you can go. They couldn't keep him on the field, wanted a lot of money. But the year before last, he commanded like 150 targets. He caught like
A
120
thousand yards,
passes.
bro. Yeah, he
Come
was a
on now.
thousand yarder.
He can still go. Sean Payton loves tight ends. Jimmy Graham. He's employed scrubs. We've had Josh Hill and we've had a younger version of Juwan Johnson. So like he can make do. I'm very intrigued about the team because they were a little bit ahead of schedule. Maybe that's just my opinion. I
Nah,
was not expecting them
definitely.
to
Look
go.
look at how much dead money they had tied up with Russ. They are way ahead of schedule.
Right. So if you tell a guy 3 years ago that they're onto a new quarterback and Russ is struggling to find a team, he'd probably be like, "Oh, you're crazy," because they just mortgaged their entire future. But they were able to, get a coach and as the kids like to say, spin the block. And we saw them jump out ahead of Buffalo in the playoff game. Bo Nix,
No,
they were
facts.
big underdogs. I know it didn't turn out well, but somebody forgot to tell them that they were two touchdown underdogs. They came out, hit a bomb first drive, and they were up. I like the two signings on defense. I like Hufanga and Greenlaw, but obviously the consensus is injury, injury, injury. But if I was Denver, I wouldn't be worried about that because one, you didn't draft them. Like it's not like your defense is going to. You're not going to fall off a cliff
Yeah.
if they don't pan out. You're taking a chance. You just had one of
Their
the top
additions.
defenses,
Yeah.
right? You had the best defensive player as voted by his peers in the entire league with
Oh
PS2.
God.
So you had Nick Benito. You have guys that you
Jonathan
can.
Cooper. No,
Right.
facts.
So these are guys that like if you watch this, you're gonna be like, who the hell are some of these guys? But they just had one of the best defenses in the entire league. You put in two guys who are boomer bust. They've been injured, but they were two players outside of Fred Warner. Those are their two best defenders, or those
Oh
were
God.
were their two best defenders. So if they stay healthy, I think they will have a better chance. The 49ers just have an injury problem. Some teams organizationally cannot keep players healthy. My Saints are the same. If you look at injury reports year to year, it's the same teams. It's the Ravens, it's the 49ers, it's the Saints. It's organization. So if they can keep them healthy, they didn't have injury problems last year. I think the sky's the limit for them. If they can build on what they had, you get Bo Nix a safety blanket, if you will.
Yeah.
I think you see that all these top guys have a tight end to spam. And we like to joke that he likes to dink and dunk. If that's what he likes to do, you meet him halfway, meet him where he is. Make him comfortable because that's who your guy is. No need to sit and wonder like, oh, wish we had a guy with this. Sean Payton is a master of this is what I have. This is what we're gonna do. Regardless of how I feel about him, I like what they're doing.
Oh God. And I will say, like, talking about that safety blanket, there are a lot of veteran, very good wide receivers on the market right now.
Right.
Think about names like Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, all guys who are available. And I think if you just look at what the Broncos have done up to this point, like you said, I think they've put themselves in a phenomenal spot to get back to the playoffs and even win a playoff game, this upcoming season. But for me, I think I gotta shift the tide a little bit, man, because we all know who the biggest winners of free agency are, man. Shout out to Mike Vrabel and the
Okay, okay,
whole New England staff, man.
okay,
Mike Vrabel is a big part of this offseason win, by the way. Got Gerard Mayo out the door 3 days after the season, however many days it was. And we kicked it off with a steal, bro. I thought Milton Williams was headed to Carolina. We spun the block with the Brinks truck on Milton Williams, bro. We
okay,
was
okay,
like, hey, you want to be the highest paid player in free agency so far? Here a bag. And
okay.
it's not too many niggas gonna say no to the bag,
Right,
bro. But
right.
I
You get a
will
bag.
say,
You get a
oh
bag. You get a
God.
bag. Okay, all
But
right.
I will say, he had a great postseason run with the Eagles. I am a little concerned if he can do that with Keon White and Caleb Von Chase on next to him. I'm gonna put that out there, but I'm praying for the best because we gave him that much money. I hope he plays up to it. But beyond him, we also went and got Carlton Davis, a guy who is a boxing glove corner who will beat your ass to the line, beats
Yeah,
physical,
yeah.
and win down the field. To pair with Gonzo, I think we are developing one of the better secondaries as we've typically had. And then we add Robert Spillane in the middle, a linebacker who fits that Patriot mold who we haven't had in a minute. You think about some of the names that have left the building, the Jamie Collins, the Landon Roberts. We needed that middle guy, and I think Robert Spillane can come in and be that. He's been that over the past few years in Vegas with the Raiders. Pass coverage, run coverage, he does it all. So I think that's a great signing. And to me, all the moves we made on defense were with the sole goal of making Drake May a better quarterback. Because when you ask less of your younger quarterback, obviously he's not a rookie anymore, but when you ask less of him, the results you can expect are just exponentially increased. You can expect that win total to increase from 4 or however many wins we had last year. I think we are confidently an A+ win team now, just because I don't think anybody's scoring over 21 on us this year. Buffalo can come in here with that foolishness, whatever, whatever. We might have a top 5 defense in the league next year, and I think that'll make Drake May look even better once we draft a left tackle to pair with Morgan Moses on the right, and hopefully some ball catches for Drake May as well.
What pick do y'all have in draft?
We got 4, so I'm hoping Kelvin Banks, Will Compton, whoever it is, bro. We just need to fortify that left side.
Okay, and then you could go you take that, you take a tackle, and then you play around in one of them later rounds, get your receiver, and you're in business.
Nah, for real. But really, I wouldn't mind getting Cooper Kupp, bro. I know we've talked to him. I know we tried to get Chris Godwin. We've been in on T. Higgins. I would prefer to have a veteran guy because if you just look in that New England locker room, I would say the vet right now is Kendrick Bourne, and no disrespect to Bourne because I think he's a very good
Yeah,
receiver, but
he's made plays. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But he's not a guy who you want to say like, yeah, this is my leader in the wide receiver room. So I think we need a voice in there, uh, just to help with some of the young guys. We saw Booty start to come on last year. We got Javon Baker and Jalen Polk last year. Obviously Polk struggled, but I just think having that veteran presence with somebody who can be a reliable target for Drake May, week one, I think that's the route we should go as opposed to trying to address it with one of our premium draft picks.
and Douglas started to come on a little bit too.
Nah, facts, facts. I've missed with a little pop in the slot, bro.
Yeah, getting a wide receiver, that's the Patriot way. No more DEI hires. Get the lunch pail white dudes and
Josh
go win.
McDaniels back, baby.
Yeah, yeah. Get rid of all that shit. That ain't the Patriot way. Get us some white guys in there. They play the game the right way.
Nah, for
Sneaky,
real.
athletic, crafty. They go win you, like you said, 7, 8 games. And to me, if you win twice as many games as you did the year before, we have to stop. We have to get out of this mode where we think it's championship or bust or playoff or bust. There's only 14 playoff spots and one Super Bowl title. Everybody can't win everything. Sometimes you're gonna win 8 or 9 games, go home and be happy. That's It's all about improvement.
Oh God, and then just to your point on that, like development is not linear. Like we've seen the Eagles go playoffs, out the playoffs, Super Bowl champion. Like it's not linear, bro. As we continue talking about this, I've kind of seen a constant theme arise as we've talked about these off-season winners, and as we kind of get to our last winner, a lot of these winners have been teams who drafted rookie quarterbacks last year. We talked about the Broncos and Bo Nix, talked about the Vikings with JJ McCarthy, Patriots with Drake May, and obviously the Bears with Caleb Williams as well. But these teams are heavily invested in these guys they took in these early rounds and surround them with the talent they need to be successful. And I think arguably somebody who could challenge for that biggest winner is the guys whose team drafted him second overall in Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. So you've sang Jaden Daniels' praises all year. How have the Commanders helped him hopefully advance past the NFC Championship game this year?
So you get him a left tackle, right? You get Tunzel, who's one of, Mr. Gas Mask himself, Mr. Draft Day Scandal himself. I like that trade. I like that trade as a win-win. If the Texans, right, your O-line was terrible. I know some people are going to look at it and say, well, why would you get rid of your line? Well, if you can't trust them, if their locker room issues, their culture issues, they got 4 picks. 3 of them are high rounders. You can rebuild that O-line. You feel like you have a guy in CJ Stroud who can be somewhat O-line proof, and at times he has been. Like, and now that's
Yeah.
relative. Quarterbacks can only be so good with a line. But that's a guy who doesn't need every single thing to be in order. He can make plays. I love that. I like Debo a lot. You got rid of Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus went to the Bears, so that might be a nice little pickup for
Hey,
them.
facts. We saw how he came on last year, like
Come on now.
500 plus. Yeah.
They let De'Ami Brown go. I'm not entirely broken up about it just because a lot of that felt like Jaden Daniels-esque elevation. I know that he was a first-year guy, but like you could see, Josh said it in one of the videos, these ass receivers. Like, oh my God, we lost De'Ami Brown. What are we going to do? Like, I mean, it's
Nobody
crazy.
at the crib crying about De'Ami
Come on,
Brown.
bro. It's crazy that they kicked Jahan Dotson to the curb before Jaden Daniels even got there. It's like
Nah, facts.
they're very weird about receivers. You go get Debo, he's gonna have a new lease on life. Debo is one of those guys. It's like if I don't have the quarterback that I want, if I don't have, they're not throwing me the ball 150 times. Like he didn't care that he was getting sick. He didn't care that he was getting injured. He didn't care that he was putting on weight. He's like, oh, well, y'all paid me. Y'all making me go out here. Oh, well, I just want to change my number. I'm gonna run around and he's not that Debo that we used to see on Sunday night, run through the crowd, breaking 50, 100 tackles, and the way he tore up the Eagles season before last. Like that Debo, I feel like if you lose some weight, you're playing with a premier young, probably the premier young talent quarterback, a culture that, they're winning. It's interesting to say that, we want them to get past that championship game. I just urge that team to not get bored with instant success because a lot of times you get good fast out of nowhere. You're like, okay, well, we're straight. Like they
You
went to the
come,
second biggest stage that you can get to. I urge and I hope that, Dan Quinn is urging them to not get bored with success because Washington, they ain't never won shit. So for them to go, have that much success, they beat the brakes off the Lions. They beat Tampa Bay. Those are
yeah.
teams that have won, playoff games. I don't want them to get bored and be like, all right, what do we do now? Because it's going to be difficult for them to get past that just because they overachieved so much. It's not a bad thing. It's a good problem to have. But if you're in that locker room, you're like, I want to win a Super Bowl, it's going to be even harder now because now you have a target on your back.
Yeah, but I think they have the right guy in that locker
Yep.
room to make sure that doesn't happen. Because think about what Dan Quinn did with the Falcons. They won Super Bowl year two.
Right.
So I just think, like you said, I really like what the Commanders have done this offseason. And kind of talking about Debo some more, we saw Debo kind of start to fall off once Christian McCaffrey got there. He wasn't getting the same touches. He wasn't getting the same opportunities. I think going to Washington will present him with a chance to get those opportunities. You look at their run game last year, Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, neither one of them niggas was running past 8 yards, bro. So
Right.
now Debo Samuel can add some explosiveness to that run game, given he wants to do it. Obviously, he said in the past he didn't want to be a wide back, but bro, you have a chance to be a Super Bowl caliber player on this team. So
And it's on tape. It's too late for me.
exactly, exactly, bro. And the GM is from San Francisco, so I think that's kind of what he was thinking as well. So you add a two to Terry, you improve that running game that was already on Jaden Daniels' back. You can share that load now with Debo, and hopefully they bring in another back as well. But like you said, I like what the Commanders are doing, And then they continue to build that defense too, bro. And they brought back the key culture guys, looking at Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz, bro. So I just like the way this team is going. I like the way this culture is, and I don't see a world where they fall off. But like you said, or like we said, improvement isn't linear. So
Yeah,
I think it's about the time to say, there can only be so many winners. So who are the biggest losers from this year's offseason so far?
I gotta say, Seattle, bring that ass here. Ah, the craziest part about them as losers is it. I feel like it didn't get cemented until Darnold. Geno Smith would have been the first domino, but when you turn around and go get Darnold after getting rid of the weapons,
Yeah,
that's when I started scratching my head. Okay, so if you want to get rid of Geno, right, he's got one really good year of tape, one really bad year of tape. If you feel like, we can go find something else that's not the end of the world and you trade him opposite conference, probably won't run into him, whatever. But when you go get Darnold as the last move, that's when I was like, what the hell are y'all doing? Because that's a guy, we talk about game manager, game changer. He is, I got one for you, going to like this thermostat versus thermometer. So Sam
mm,
Darnold he's going to tell you what the temperature is around the team. Like, we don't have enough weapons. We don't have a good enough O-line. We don't have good enough receivers. He's not the thermostat that's going to dictate the temperature, right? He's going to tell you what is around him. So
yeah,
now you get rid of his weapons. You got JSN, but was he drafted to be the number one receiver? No. Is he in the slot a little bit too much for that? I don't think he can't play, but like, I'm not building a team around him. If you want to build a team around a receiver, it's got to be big body, alpha. Go get me
nah, here
one.
you go with this Josh Crawford shit.
Well, but when I say big body, I mean like the teams look at him like this is our guy. Like we got to put a
Uh,
body on him. When they were playing against JSN, it's like, all right, you let him run around, he can play, but we're worried about DK. I feel like
I
even if you
mean,
don't go
Tyler,
ahead,
to be fair, bro, to be fair, this past season, and Jigba out targeted out. I don't know the way to say it.
yeah, I got you,
Significantly
I
out
got you.
targeted DK on the season, and then to your argument, we've seen Tyreek be a number one guy. We saw JSN go berserk in a bowl game when he had the chance to be the number one guy. Obviously, that was in college, but
Right,
still, I think JSN has the potential, and I also think the Seahawks have a plan. Like you don't trade, you know what I'm saying, DK and Lockett and Geno if you don't have a plan. So I think going forward is like you bring in Clint Kubiak, you bring in MVS, a guy who was familiar with Kubiak down in New Orleans. And then you hear all of these rumors about Cub wants to stay on the West Coast. Seahawks have real interest. I think the Seahawks are finding a way to retool as opposed to rebuild or
right.
enter this wasteland. I think they are on a good track to still be competitive because when you have the run game, you have the pieces on defense. You don't necessarily have the defense yet, but you know what Mike McDonald brings to the table. I think this team is still in contention to be one of the better teams in the NFC West with Sam Darnold.
Also, the 49ers, I
Mm,
thought that was not sure what they're doing. They need to get younger and cheaper,
nah,
and
facts.
they didn't seem to let your whole defense go. Now we talked about Greenlaw Hufanga in a positive light. So if I'm them, right, my thought process is they're injury prone. But what do you have? Like you had
Mustafa
Campbell
came
literally.
on.
Yeah, you had Campbell quit because they
Yeah,
cut his reps in half. If they like Mustafa this much, I guess more power to them. But that'd have to be something that like you find out the right way, the hard way, that it was
yeah,
a good choice. You can't sit there and be like, look at what we're doing, like, oh, I tried to tell you this would work. No, it's kind of gonna be like, oh, see, it worked. But you can't, justify all these moves on paper. Like
yeah.
CMC is not gonna play 15, 16 games next year. Let's just put that out there. Might not
Facts,
even play 10.
facts.
No Debo. The whole
IU
IU
coming
thing
off
is
the ACL.
it's weird because they still didn't know what to do with him. Like, I'm not gonna like I get he got injured, but I'm not gonna sit there and act like that was, that was a cherry on top. He was
Yeah,
pouting. They had a grown ass man on the sideline making him change his shorts, and that was a disaster before he got hurt. There were games he was getting 2 and 3 targets against
facts.
pass happy teams. They were in dogfights against Seattle. They're throwing the ball 1 or 2 times. It's like, all right, well, that shit was a disaster.
I agree, bro.
That
But
was an absolute disaster. Um, I'm not
I think it
seeing.
only gets worse for San Francisco though, bro.
Yeah,
Because
I
you got to
don't.
think Brock Purdy got to get paid soon, so even more guys got to leave.
And they're. I get the feeling they're gonna do it. Like we always fuss about Brock Purdy, see this, is he that. Like what are they gonna do? We talk about what we would do. Let's start talking about what they're finna do. They're gonna pay him. They're going to pay him probably. I don't think they should, but they just seem like that organization. Like, oh, he's done this for us. Like
Nah,
that's
facts.
it.
Been to the
Just
Super Bowl, XYZ.
like if you just saw Jimmy G come like in front of him do the same exact shit, why am I gonna turn around and pay him? And now you just got rid of Debo. You had you. I think McCaffrey was a gamble, was worth the gamble at the
Yeah,
time. But if you would have told them it's only going to be for a year and some change, I
and
don't
you're
know if
not
they
gonna
would
get
have
a
stuck.
Super Bowl out of it.
And now your picks are gone, and they did the same shit with Trey Lance.
I didn't even talk about the fact that they cut check.
No,
They
facts.
lost Aaron Banks, so it seems that people think that's a terrible deal. At least for the Packers, they paid a lot of money for him. But if you're a team that can't keep O linemen on the field, like it's not good for you to just let him walk. Like you can't really be concerned with the other team paid for him. Obviously, you didn't think he was worth enough to even pay to keep him. So
Then you lost
just a
Jalen
beat up.
Moore too.
Come on, just a beat up ass team. They just seem so fair weather to me sometimes. It's like if we don't have the quarterback and we don't have all the what do they call them, the Avengers, then
Yeah,
we don't want to show up and play football. The NFC West is going to be interesting. Obviously we differ on the opinions of the Seahawks, but they're not as bad as the 49ers, and that is a wide open division. It's
facts.
always oddly competitive. I like what Arizona did on defense,
With Josh Sweat.
offensive, right? Offensively, I'm always kind of scratching my head because like they've always lined up personnel, but it's like sometimes they're
Yeah,
like they struggle to.
like you got a number one overall quarterback. Like when are you gonna treat him like one?
The fact that you just even said it to me is blowing my mind because it's like people forget. Bro won Rookie of the Year. He
Exactly, bro.
was. You have the first receiver that went in the draft. You have James Conner. Like they put together O line time and time. It's like okay, guys. You watch the games, you look up, you're like, damn, they struggling to even score sometimes. It's
Oh
like
God, bro. And it's like it's just hard to understand because it's
it's
like
weird. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. You're like, you have a quarterback, you have a receiver, you have a running back. That's all you need. That's
exactly.
all you need.
And not just
You got
a quarterback, you got an athletic quarterback, bro.
you got the quarterback saying, "Oh, well, it's not my job to get him the ball." You talk to Drew like, "What do you mean? It's not your job. That's your only job." Like
Okay.
they didn't draft Marvin Harrison so he could look shiny on the outside. Like that was to your point about Seattle. I just hope they have a plan. So I will put an asterisk around them. I will call them my biggest confuser because I'm not seeing the maybe loser was too harsh. I'm not seeing the vision. But again, there's always a team like that. It was like that with Minnesota. I wasn't seeing the vision, but they popped out and they
Yeah.
won. So I'm confused. I always like to say maybe they know something I don't, but that's their job, right? It's a professional organization. Maybe they supposed to know something we don't. So with that division in mind, the Rams, I don't know. They've lost a lot of pieces in free agency.
Yeah,
Lost a couple on the line. They were kind of playing around with Stafford. They lost a couple. I like Tay Adams. I like that.
yeah.
I
Me
actually kind of
too.
like that a lot.
I
Just
think he'll get back
because,
to that 1,000 yard form.
and what he can do is like, I don't know if timeless is the right word, but like if you're unguardable, like if that's your whole, you can't really lose that. Like
He in that Jerry
his
Rice category, bro.
it's like his skill set was never based on speed or the fact that he was bigger than you. It's just like
He's
he
more
can do some
technical.
right. He can do something that you can't. He just was in hell last year. Like it just no offense to Josh when you watch this. But I don't know. I don't know if that's glazing, but like when he was doing his thing in Green Bay, it's just like he's not gonna run by you. He's not gonna run around you. He'll marsh you, but like he just ran around in the end zone and you're looking this way and he's this way, or he got something you don't.
Oh God, bro.
He's got a quarterback that guys want to play with, guys want to play for. He's gonna get you the ball. They like to run it a little bit. Probably the best offensive mind in football. I'm sure there's another guy that they can argue about, but
Yeah.
McVay, he's
He's
that
up
guy.
there. He's up there.
He's that guy. He's that guy. I'm intrigued for a lot of these divisions. I wanted to say when you were talking about your Patriots, I like them for a potential, not worst to first, but we're definitely getting out of the basement, back to, and, most Super Bowls, of course, like, it's not like y'all are a scrub organization, but like, it's been a minute, right? So get back out that basement. I like I like a second place finish. I like 8 or 9 games, but you never know. These teams be ahead of schedule sometimes. Like we just saw Denver do it. We just saw the Commanders do it. You don't never know. You
But
don't
I
never
mean,
know.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm not really worried about Miami because they haven't
No.
done anything this offseason to scare me. And then the Jets and Justin Fields, that's another big gamble. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's. I was gonna get to them. I was gonna get on that as, and when we talk about head scratchers,
Yeah.
but again, I like Justin Fields. Would I have given him all that money?
It's
Ah,
really not all that money to me though.
how much was it?
It's 2 for 40 with 30 guaranteed. So in my
Okay,
mind, it's
okay.
really a 1 for 30. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's not that bad. I thought it was okay. I thought it was like 45, 50. You know what? With the resetting of the market and like them guys, Josh Allen got like 60. So you're
Nah,
right.
facts.
If like if you make it like equal to what it used to be, that's actually not that much. Because if he's getting a third of what the guys like
Yeah,
40
yeah.
million used to be the most you could get to a quarterback. So that would be like giving him 15. So it's not that much.
Okay.
Just for the fact that these teams are kind of like doing him dirty. So it's weird to see that a team respecting him is kind of like, damn, like they gonna give him real money. The fucking Steelers threw him out to the garbage. Like, all right, well, you won us 5 games. All right, you take a seat. And the Jets were like, all right, we're gonna give you the bag, do your
And
thing. So
investing because
right.
they went and
So
got his center from college from Green Bay, bro.
oh
To already pair with Garrett Wilson. I can't think
right.
of
So
his
that's
name right now.
that yeah, okay. That's his boy. I like him. I don't really think it's
Josh
very risky.
Myers.
Right, okay. Look what you just dealt with last year, bro. Come on now. You got a guy who he's gonna show up and play. Justin Fields played through broken hands, foot injury. Like
Facts.
he's gonna show up and play.
Iron Man, bro.
Physical, can run the ball. You got Brees Hall. You still got Garrett Wilson. Like that team has never, almost as long as we've been alive, always had some type of dude somewhere. They've had organizational issues, but that team has always rolled out a guy on either side of the ball where you're like, damn, okay, well, put some pieces
Yeah.
around them. So I'm intrigued. Those AFC East games are always very competitive.
Oh
It's
God.
strange. You might not look at the rosters and be like, oh yeah, they finna get up to it, but the Patriots got in Buffalo face
Nah,
in
facts,
that
bro.
last game.
Oh
Yeah,
God. Joe Milton show.
yeah.
Joe Milton show.
You got to be careful in the AFC East. That's treacherous.
Before we get off of the losers, I gotta throw my two biggest losers out there, bro.
Okay.
Cowboys, Bengals. The minute
Okay.
Myles Garrett signed for that 40 million, Michael Parsons, Trey Hendrickson became the happiest niggas in the United States of America, bro. Because Trey Hendrickson coming off back to back, leading
Right.
the NFL in sack years with 17 and a half. Somebody's going to give him a bag on an extension. Doesn't look like the Bengals are going to do it, and they gave him
Right.
permission to seek a trade. The reason they're losers is because they also have to extend T. Higgins, extend
Right.
Jamar Chase,
Right.
and this is a team that missed the playoffs last year. Same can be said for Dallas. Michael Parsons, a free agent, missed the playoffs. You
Right.
went out and got Javante Williams, Woody fucking Woo. It's looking bleak, Vance. That's all I'm gonna say. It's looking bleak.
Shout out Vance.
Damn, the
Shout
the
out, Vance.
funeral Dak Prescott jersey is crazy.
Shout out, Vance. I had this for you just in case. Um, yeah, you know what I'll say, just as I don't want to call this a participation trophy, but like they've always been weird with free agency. They're a draft team. Like
Yeah,
they one of these few years, they were like, okay, well, we found out that even if we bullshit during free agency, there's another team that can sneeze and win 11 games. I don't know how. But clearly, it's sustainable because now, what is the first thing I say? Oh, well, they don't win in the playoffs. Well, I just got finished saying that that's not always the end goal. Like everybody
yeah,
can't go to the playoffs. Sometimes you just gotta, the Cowboys had a down year a few years ago, and they bounced back and they win 12, 11, 13 games every year. So maybe they were like, you know what, we're a draft team. Now that doesn't excuse absolutely bullshitting in free agency because that will put you in a bind in the draft, so that way you have to nail it. So maybe that urgency maybe that has given them urgency in the draft. Like, all right, we just fooled around for 3, 4 months and we're gonna screen Jerry Jones. Oh, you got to get rid of him. And then once the draft come around, you're like, damn, the Cowboys, they found another lineman, they found another receiver. I think if they go get a receiver, now we're gonna talk about coaches, but that coaching shit that they did,
Shoddy, you not fucking with it?
it's not that I'm not messing with. It's just like they almost put him in there just as people to stop talking about the fact that they didn't have a coach. It's like, all right, here we got a coach now. Everybody, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead.
I think first I want to address your draft talk because I think the Cowboys got too happy when Dak and Zeke worked. Because you think about it, that was the start of the 12, 10, 11 win, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying, the little streak they had. And it started with that draft. Dak Prescott comes in and plays well. Zeke comes in and plays well. I want to say they won Rookie of the Year and Offensive Rookie of the Year, that duo. And that
yeah.
propelled them for several years. And then other drafts boosted that. You think about guys they picked up, Trayvon Diggs, Michael Parsons, Tyron Smith,
CD.
yeah, exactly. CD, like they kept hitting in the draft, and that
Right.
made their team look better. And I think that influenced them to kind of get away from free agency.
Yeah.
And now they're to a point to where your team is playing so good that the guys you draft are getting expensive, and you haven't paid them ahead of time. So now you're, like you said, you've put yourself in a bind to where you have to nail the draft, especially when you aren't supplementing the talent you have in the building, the talent that you have drafted with free agents. But to talk about Shotty and the coaching thing, like I was definitely one that was confused when Schottenheimer ended up being the guy because you think about some of the names that got floated, Dion, and all the other connections that they had just from guys who had been former Cowboys, former guys who had coached in the building. Hell, Bill Belichick was even a coaching free agent.
Right.
That was a name that was talked about. So I look at it and I say, yes, you keep the familiarity, a guy who's been with this team, a guy who's been with this unit, but when you let Mike McCarthy go, why not get somebody who you know for a fact is going to
Right.
be better? That was my biggest issue with the whole hire.
When I was watching one of the Cowboys games, it kind of struck me like this is odd, but last year was some of the hardest they played, even with all the injuries. Like that
Facts.
Tampa Bay game, like that's why I was like, I know that Mike McCarthy was always going to be the scapegoat, but it kind of bothered me a little bit because he had them playing at a level in terms of the guys that they had left that I hadn't seen before. It wasn't just coasting on, we got CD and Zeke and all these guys that we can beat you, we just beat the piss out of you. Like when they lost a bunch of games, by a lot of points in the season, and they kind of started to fight. Like that Thanksgiving Day game versus the Giants, they were hustling. Like they were playing hard-nosed football. And it just seemed to me like that's coach driven. So why am I, throwing the coach under the bus when he was rolling out, summer league, practice league,
Oh
preseason guys
God.
every Sundays, well, at some point.
I mean, shit, Dak Prescott missed the whole back half of the
Right.
year. So you're rolling out Cooper Rush to start half of these games and you're finding a way to win. Like you said,
So that was just weird for me. Like I always knew that he was like that's just how football is. Like if we're
yeah.
losing, where's that damn coach? All right, you're fired. Like that's what we're gonna do. But like that Tampa Bay game, they just fought. It was I've never seen it in that level where they've been so shorthanded because a lot of teams just gonna lay
Yeah.
down. Like
No,
they
fact.
were fighting to save their coach's job. We always talk about they want to get their coach fired. They was playing their ass off in that Cincinnati game. They were playing their ass off.
Oh
Like
God.
rolling Cooper Rush out, rolling out, Rico Dotto was out for a few games. They rolling out God knows who in the backfield. It's like, all right,
Little Deuce Vaughn.
come on, bro. So I don't know. That just
Yeah, and kind of I guess to round this out, like you even heard the players come out and support
right.
McCarthy through this stretch. Like they asked Dak Prescott, and he was like, "Yeah, I think Mike should be back, and I think Mike should be back and should be allowed to do it his way," which was a quote that kind of stuck with me. And while we're talking about quotes, I kind of want to see, we talked about the Seahawks. You saw the shit Demarcus Lawrence said on Twitter, bro.
Look at that money maker bitch dude. Ooh wee. He acting up, bro. That team puts you on the map. I
Yeah,
get it, like I get the running jokes and all that shit, but like sometimes it gotta be time out for that shit if you're on the team. You
I
were
agree.
just a part of that organization. Why is it the first thing to do is bite the hand that fed you? What do you get out of that?
Oh
Seattle ain't
God,
never won shit. Seattle, or not never, but they haven't won shit in a decade. Like you're not going to an organization that is known. Oh, this is a blue. Seattle used to be this laughing stock of the NFL was Seattle at one point. Like humility, bro. You ain't better than Micah. Like I get that, people have their whatever about Micah. You ain't better than Micah. Um, Now you brought up good points about their team, but like it's not certain. We know the Cowboys gonna win 10 games with a healthy roster. We don't know what the hell Seattle finna do. For you to turn around and be like, like I said, I like what you said about like, talking about how they are retooling, but we don't know if that shit gonna work.
Yeah,
Like,
facts.
so
We ain't seen it hit the field yet.
right. And I was just concerned because you have a new defensive head coach, and you get rid of a lot of the offense personnel. It's like, okay, well, maybe we might play a different. Maybe they want to turn around and hand the football off 30 times a game. If they find a way to work, then. But the Mr. Marcus Lawrence, bro, bad mouthing the team that you was just on, that you couldn't stay on the field for.
Oh God.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it either, but to me, I just thought I saw it just in the light of it speaks to the bigger cultural problems in Dallas that have continued to plague them year after year. And like we said, bro, like it's certain teams you just know, bro. And the Cowboys are one of them teams you just know when it gets to the nitty gritty, they gonna let your ass down.
Right.
And like you said, it comes down to culture.
Right.
But let's get into these head scratchers. Biggest head scratcher moves of free agency for you so far.
Um, I wasn't crazy about the Kinlaw move. It was the number amount. Like when you have a guy who is, can we call him a bust, or is that too harsh?
I don't know, bro, because what he was top five and he hasn't
Yeah,
had
he was
a
a
double
high.
D. Yeah,
So I got into the numbers. He has played in 58 out of like 82 games. Okay, that's not awful. It's not good. He
yeah.
has 9.5 sacks in almost 60 games. Like I know he's an interior-ish
Hmm.
guy, but like we done seen Aaron Donald. That ain't no damn excuse. We done seen Aaron Donald and other guys get. So okay, so if you played 58 games, was that 4 seasons?
Yeah.
Even if you're an interior guy, 4 sacks a year. Is that too much to ask for? We're looking at around 16, 17 sacks total. 9.5. And he got more millions than sacks. That's crazy to me.
We've just seen Milton Williams, all these interior guys, Chris Jones, be pressure creators, and Kinlaw just got a bag to basically
So,
be one of them.
so we're talking about like, so again, the first thing people gonna say is when you bring up sacks for D lineman, that's not gonna do it. That's not gonna shit. We just named 5 guys. That's Lawrence that they gonna get on the inside, and you'll be surprised that they're not playing defensive end the way they get into that
No
quarterback. Same
bet.
with Vita Vea. They
Hey,
gonna get
for
nine,
real.
10 sacks. So you're talking about a guy who doesn't even have 10 sacks. We're going on year 6. You gave him a 3-year deal. I don't want to say he's a bust, but I feel like he should have still been on the prove it. Do you do 2 prove-its back to back? I don't know. I'll let you get into the contract yet. I know
Yeah.
that's your thing, but if you're the Jets, why not? Why would I mortgage that? Like, you got 2 young pass rushers on the edge, so now you're gonna have to kick one of them out. You just gave him 15 million. When it comes time to pay, maybe you want to pay Jermaine Johnson. Maybe Will McDonald develops into what you want. So now they ain't all finna get paid. And you just gave Brandon Stevens like 14 million a year,
Nah, that was
bro.
a head scratcher to me with Brandon Stevens because everybody on Twitter, everybody who had football eyes could see he was the worst secondary player for Baltimore last year, not named Marcus Williams.
So and look what they did to him. They didn't trade, they let him go. So you're telling me you got 2 defenders who other teams have said you can go. Here's the door. You just gave them 80 total. Both
Hey,
got 40.
Kinlaw signed with Washington. Kinlaw, a Commander.
I thought Kinlaw was a Jet.
He
I thought they
left it.
resigned.
He left it just to sign with the Commanders. He the Jonathan Allen replacement.
Oh no, hell no, they tripping. I gave them their props, but I don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
like it because don't they still have Newton, huh? They just had Newton,
they drafted Newton last year.
and they lost Fowler
Yep.
to the Cowboys. Yeah. So they're building around his ass?
I he that new centerpiece. Him and Newton.
What the fuck? Yeah.
So
Damn, I thought he
that was why I didn't like it. I didn't realize you were saying you didn't like it from the Jets perspective.
Oh yeah, I thought they re-signed him. Yeah, okay, I'm
Nah,
tweaking.
but nah, he's a commander, and I didn't like it from the perspective of I blinked on Deron Payne. Obviously, he's their interior guy, but
Oh,
you
absolutely
lose
not.
Jonathan Allen and replace him with Javon Kinlaw. Jonathan Allen has been a top, I would say, 10 interior D lineman in terms
Right.
of both run stopping and pass rush capabilities in the league, and you replace him with a guy like you said, Javon Kinlaw, who's a pure question mark and who we're still waiting on the potential to pan out.
Oh, well, if he's a commander, I hate it even worse because they've been offloading a D lineman every year. You lost Chase Young, you lost Sweat, you just got rid of Allen. So like we looked at them like that was one of the better D lines in
Facts.
football. Okay, so if we want to, like you said before, retool, like we want to revamp, not starting off with that young fella. Is he might be still young because a lot of them they enter the league young, but
Yeah.
15. That's what I'm saying about like a young team like that just was good, really fast. They started to do shit like that. You're like, because you got to be careful. They did resign Bobby Wagner, but he's not
Yeah.
exactly 25. Like we done seen, he was playing hurt. So like if he doesn't play injured, we might be having a different conversation about the Commanders because he was in there sticking his nose in,
Oh God.
helping them to win games, even though he was playing on one good leg. So you got to be careful with stuffing that D line with them old ass, brittle ass. Yeah, I actually hate that.
It get
Damn, I thought he
spicy
was
and
there.
shit.
I hate that. Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, I agree with that, bro. But for me, I would say one of my biggest question marks, one of my biggest head scratchers was from the perspective of letting this guy get out the building, and that's the Titans and Nick Westbrook-Ikine. And I
Mm,
know y'all might be like, why the hell are we talking about the Titans on No Cap Sports?
do your homework.
Nick Westbrook-Ikine was a guy who caught 9 touchdowns last year, 500 plus yards, had one of his better offensive seasons, and they let him go sign with Miami on a 2 year, like $6.5 million deal.
Yeah.
And instead, they brought in Van Jefferson on a 1 year, $2 million deal. Now, I'm not gonna hate on anybody for getting their bread, but Van
Right.
Jefferson ain't been good since he was at Florida. So Van Jefferson coming off a 200-yard year, I want to say he had 2 tuds. He comes in to replace a guy who had 9 tuds, over 500 yards, and was a climber in terms of his NFL career. I hate that for Tennessee, especially when you consider the fact that they're likely going to bring in a young quarterback and you need as many reliable pass catchers as you can have. You got Slid Red. Other than that, the cabinet is bare in Tennessee, and Van Jefferson ain't helping whoever they bring in the door, man.
We've been trying to push this Van Jefferson shit for how many years now? Every team that done
Bruh,
got done
the
been like, oh
narrative.
yeah, yeah. We okay. So Steelers, Rams, Titans. It's another team I'm missing.
I want to say it was with the Falcons too.
I think the biggest thing about what you said is in a vacuum, right? We're not gonna, die over Nick Westbrook-Ikine. But it's what
But
you said about what he just did. It doesn't make any sense. He just had the best year of his career. He was probably the best receiver that you had, not named Calvin Ridley.
oh
Why would
god,
you do it? It's not about the player as in the entire body where like, oh, we're gonna die on this hill. Like, you're not gonna go to war for him. And we're talking about
oh
receivers.
hell no.
Right. But you can, like, again, I want y'all to hear what he said about what he just did. Put it in context. It matters, right? Every time I looked up, he was making a play. If you're a team who struggled to even keep a consistent quarterback on the field, why, what am I doing?
Oh god,
Right? Why would
you're
I do that?
and beyond that, you're a known wide receiver graveyard.
Right.
You got so many headstones of wide receivers who have come in and seen their careers ended.
Right.
D Hop, Julio, Andre Johnson, like the list goes on and on and on.
Wasn't Robert
When
Woods in that mix?
yeah, Robert Woods, like the names is the list is crazy, bro. Like people be having the Browns quarterback jerseys. Somebody needs to invest in the Tennessee Titans receiver jersey because that bit's gonna be long, bro.
Are they still waiting on T Bob to break out?
I
Uh,
I would hope not because I forgot he was really on the roster, bro. Like we've been waiting on that for so long. He was supposed to be the AJ Brown replacement.
See, again, it's just like I'm so confused because why are we replacing dudes? They replaced AJ Brown after like career years. That's what I didn't understand. If you want to move up AJ Brown after rookie year, we would have never even known
Blink the
any better.
eye effects.
We would have never known any better. Cool. But why am I gonna wait till we just put it on tape? He's going to get paid, right? God forbid he go to a division rival. That doesn't even matter. He just put it on tape that I'm going to command money. Well, here, you could go. You go get you some money.
Oh,
I,
bro, like I think the perfect way to put it is this: the Titans didn't trade AJ Brown. The Titans traded 1K always open, bro.
right.
Like that's the difference, bro. Like
Right.
you don't do that, and they have suffered as a franchise because of incompetent decisions yet and
Right.
yet again. Some obviously bigger than others, but I think this Nick Westbrook-Ikine thing is gonna be something they look back on. And honestly, I would just advise them to watch that Rams Bengals Super Bowl. I don't know if you remember watching that at the
Yeah,
Sac,
that's
bro.
really.
After Odell got hurt, Van Jefferson, they tried to roll him out there. That shit was strapped. So I'm sorry, Cam Ward. Hope you can throw a good back shoulder.
See, if they let me put the GM hat on, we talking about receiver core. I'm gonna trade back. I'm gonna get a receiver, and I'm gonna go down on quarterback because there's no point in getting Cam Ward if you can't support him. Like you're just gonna waste his. So if NFL teams have even a shred of like I don't know, dignity or
Yeah.
respect for that player, trade back, get a receiver, get a different quarterback, maybe get a bridge quarterback, and you could get one of these goofy ass teams, maybe my goofy ass team. Oh, we want to trade up and get them to give you 7, 6, 7 picks, some dumb shit, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks, just to get. We just seen Carolina do it.
Oh
They
God.
just did it. So if you're Tennessee, right? If you're not even 100% sold on Cam Ward, trade back, get one of these silly ass franchises to give you 4 or 5, 2 first round picks, 2 second, some crazy haul,
Oh
and
God.
build up your team. We have seen that just because you have a quarterback and you have nothing else, that doesn't always work. Like it can work, right? We've seen the Commanders do it, we've seen the Texans do it, but that shit doesn't always work. You will get a young kid, Justin Fields, got him killed. You have seen the other side. So we get so caught up in, oh, well, Jaden Daniels worst at first, the Texans worst at first. Look at the full picture. It ain't always like that. That is the exception. That is not the rule. If you put what we believe to be a good quarterback in a shitty situation, they cannot fix it. And they will not fix it. So if I'm Tennessee and I'm like, I don't know about Cam Ward, don't waste his time.
Oh God.
Don't waste his time. Trade back, get one of these desperate ass, unserious ass franchises to give you a haul, build your team up, make your quarterback your missing piece if you know that you have other pieces, which they had at one point. But they've like it's like a reverse rebuild. I don't know how to explain. Like we have pieces, we're gonna get rid of them. Now let's get a quarterback. We had a receiver, we had Derrick Henry and AJ Brown. Y'all go, we'll get a quarterback, and then we'll figure it out the other way instead of getting the quarterback first.
Bro, that
And
is
then
now that you said that, that is so asinine, bro. Because it was like the Titans literally had the perfect team and just
literally,
didn't have the star quarterback. And they were like, you know what? Fuck all the stars we got. Like you said, Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, everybody can
yeah,
leave.
get the
Let's
fuck
go get the star quarterback who can make up for
right.
the other 21 guys that are gonna play on Sundays.
Yeah, you're gonna ask Cam Ward to make chicken salad, chicken shit, and we're like, but the crazy part about it is there's gonna be another indictment on the black quarterbacks that, oh well, you see, look what they do. They always want to move the goalposts, and that's gonna be his fault. We can sit here and say right here, right now, that is not a good situation for him. I don't think any of the top few teams would be an
Yeah,
ideal situation.
because what is
Um,
Tennessee, Cleveland, Patriots not gonna pick and Giants?
maybe the Giants are the lesser of the evils to me.
Yeah, I agree.
So you got neighbors. You got I like Tyrone Tracy. I like Robinson. Um,
Brought
if you
back
get a
Darius
quarterback,
Slayton too.
let my boy Jalen Hyatt free. See what you got. I like that defense. We can talk about that a little bit later, but Tennessee, let that man rest, bro.
Nah,
Let that
facts.
man go do his thing.